Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our final Autism 200 lecture of 2014. So a couple of quick announcements. One, all these panelists are here to tell about their life stories, and they signed something saying that it was okay for them to tell their life story, but we are recording this. And unless you want your life story or your personal health information on the internet, please do not tell us anything about yourself. And one other thing just to kind of mention, so you guys are the first people to see our 2015 Autism 200 lecture series. So this is hot off the presses, so hopefully you grabbed a lecture, a flyer for next year. A couple of things just to point out. Please join us in January where we do our annual review of everything that happened in the past year, and point out one of the instructors, Rafe Burnett. If you haven't heard of Rafe, Rafe's sort of a rising star. He was just named, was it Seattle Magazine, most influential people. He's speaking with not so much of a big deal, Jim Mancini. And without further ado, I just want to thank all of our panelists here for coming and sharing with us. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Chuck Cowan, and he's going to be our host for the evening.
Thanks, Jim. Welcome. It's very exciting to be here. I've been looking forward to this panel for a long time. We're so privileged to have these 5 young people here with their families who are here also to help support them. And we'll get started with this in a minute. I just wanted to say one other thing. Our Autism 200 series is also telecast to places around the state of Washington. And sometimes we'll have people from far away coming and making comments as well. So if something strange happens on the screen, you'll know what that's happening. So without further ado, I've been up here many times in the past, being the person that talks a lot. And I'm excited that I don't have to do that tonight. Tonight I get to hear the voices of people with autism tell us about their lives, and for the opportunity for you all to also potentially ask questions of people in the panel. So let me introduce the folks. We'll go one at a time. We have Stephanie, Ben, Timmy, Alex, and Carter, moving from your left to right. So first, I'm going to introduce Stephanie. Stephanie is 23 years old. She works at Seattle Children's Hospital Cancer Care Unit, and these are some of the things that she said that she wanted to introduce herself with. I want people to understand that autism is a different way of learning. Some things are very hard to remember. Some things you remember forever. Autism is not a disease. It does not mean your dreams can't come true. Ben. Here's Ben rocking out on his guitar. Ben's 26. He tells us that he's currently unemployed, but would someday like to work. Autism's a neurologic difference, a different brain wiring from the neurotypical person. Autism is not a disease or a disorder. Timmy. Timmy's 15. He goes to school at Lakes High School in Lakewood, Washington. Timmy shares with us that autism is a malfunction of the neurons of your brain. Autism is not a behavior problem or a psychiatric disorder. It can cause those problems, but the cause of autism is not yet known. And Timmy's going to be speaking to us with the help of an iPad. Alex. Hi, Alex. Alex is 25. He goes to the University of Washington. He shares with us that autism is a unique ability that can be a great asset to society. Autism is not something people should look down upon. And last and certainly not least, Carter. Carter's 13. And Carter's accompanied by his parents, who are going to speak for him. He says through his parents that he goes to school at APL, the Academy for Precision Learning. He wants people to understand that autism is a spectrum. There's a wide range of how someone with autism might think, communicate, and behave. Autism is not scary or contagious. We should embrace people with autism as a vital part of our community. And I think that's something that we can all agree upon. So we're going to start with each of the panelists, and we'll start with the first question. And so Stephanie, could you answer these questions? What is your name and age? Where do you go to school or work? And tell us about your family or living situation.
Okay. My name is Stephanie Routh, and I am 23 years old, and I will be turning 24 on January 3rd. And then I work at Seattle Children's Hospital in the Cancer Care Alliance, and I live with my brother and my sister, and I live here with my parents, but I'm not ready to move away or anything. And when was I diagnosed with autism? I was 2 years old in 3 months.
Stephanie, we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna ask Ben to answer the first set of questions also. So Ben, your turn. Name, age, where do you go to school? Tell us about your family.
Okay. My name is Ben Moore, and get to suggest it. I'm 26 years old. I'm not currently going to school. I did go to Edmonds Community College and Shoreline Community College, but I was denied financial aid because I kind of kept failing, but not for lack of trying, because I really did try. But so I guess work, I'm unemployed, but I'd like to work in the future, and not just any job. I mean, kind of something I'm interested in, and kind of interested in wanting to do something associated in a hospital, because I like that kind of environment.
Tell us about your family and where
Okay,
you're
so currently I live with my younger brother, who acts a lot older than me, but he's 24. I also live with my mom and my dad. I pay my own rent every month, and that's about it, I guess.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Timmy, can you share with us your name and age and where you go to school and work, and tell us about your family, your living situation? And again, Timmy's going to answer these questions with the help of an iPad device.
What is your name and age? My name is Timothy Swindale. I am 16 years old, not 15 like it says in the PowerPoint. Where do you go to school? I go to school at Lakes High School in Lakewood, Washington. Tell us about your family. I live with my mom, dad, brother, and sister. I am adopted. I come from Bralia, Romania.
Thanks a lot, Timmy. Alex, your turn.
My name is Alex Brenner, and I'm currently 25 years old. I right now go to the University of Washington, and I guess right now I'm working as an intern for, or a GIS intern for Global Ocean Health, which deals with ocean acidification. And let's see, family situation. Well, my current living situation involves pretty much living with 3 different roommates in a dormitory just off campus, which is a blessing and a curse. And one thing I have to say is my family has been the key to helping me shape the person that I am today.
Thanks a lot. And Carter's family is going to answer these questions for him, unless Carter wants to help also.
Please, Bob equals Carter. 13 years old.
Where do you go to school?
APL.
Who do you live with?
Mr. John and Miss you.
What?
Mr. John and Miss Amy Yu, those are his teachers, so apparently he lives at school. And the first answer, in case you didn't catch it, is that he's John. No, you're Bob Parr equals Carter. So he likes to be. He has different characters he likes to be. So today he's Bob Parr, but also Carter.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to the second set of questions. We've given the panelists these questions in advance so that they had a chance to think about how they were going to answer them. So we're back to you, Stephanie.
Yes.
And question number 2 is when were you diagnosed with autism? I think you already answered that, but if you want to tell us that again. And how would you describe your autism? And the other part of question number 2 is, how has living with autism affected your life?
I was diagnosed with autism around 2 years and 3 months, and this diagnosis is pervasive developmental disorder. And I can memorize things, but sometimes I can be distracted. And how I show my autism, I can show my sweet friendliness, sweet, kind, and polite personalities. And I have lots of people who care deeply about me. And I have awesome special education teachers, and I also have wonderful help from the people at the Disney parks and resorts.
So how has living with autism affected your life?
Affected my life. How has autism affected?
Stephanie, if you're uncomfortable answering it, we can have it come back and you can think about that while we move on to the next person. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great. Ben, so when were you diagnosed with autism, and how would you describe your autism?
Well, I guess. Let's see. The first time I remembered someone actually saying the word autistic was probably when I was 17, but I guess before that, my parents told me that that when I was very little, the doctor said I would have pervasive developmental disorder, which I guess back in the late 80s was autism. So I guess around 2004 was when I kind of started knowing about it and trying to find out more about it on my own.
And how's living with autism affected you?
Affected me.
That's a hard
This
question.
this is really a hard question. I think a lot of what affected me in a kind of not a positive way in the case that I don't think it has to do with the fact that I can't do things more than the fact that I don't think society really accommodates what or my different kind of the way I learn things, and I could go in like all day about this, so I I should prepare more about this. Sorry.
No, that's a wonderful answer. That's a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. So, Timmy's all set to hit that iPad.
When were you diagnosed with autism, and how would you describe your autism? I am always autistic, but when I came from Romania, my mom hoped I had institutional autism. It was in Washington, D.C. that I finally got the diagnosis. That was in 2003. How has living with autism affected your life? I hate not being able to talk. I cannot play, games are no fun, and I am depressingly bad at sports. I have no friends at school or home to talk to, and I make people sad around me.
Thank you, Timmy. Alex.
I guess what I'd say is the first time I was diagnosed with autism, diagnosed back then was, I guess, Asperger's syndrome, was when I was kind of a freshman in high school. I think I was 14 or something. And before then, I kind of, I guess, always knew that I was seemed a little different. I wasn't really sure how to explain it, but just kind of instinctively kind of knew. But of course, we're not all born doctors, so we don't know. I didn't know. And I won't sugarcoat it. It's both a blessing and a kind of a very frustrating issue, having autism. How's living with it affected? It's kind of hard to put into words, but it's been an extraordinarily complex and kind of, I guess, time-consuming issue, because you need to kind of force yourself to become interested in things you just inherently are not interested in at all. Like, for instance, some of my peers, they love talking about celebrities and things like that. I know. And I like talking about real-world issues and philosophy. So, as you can see, both of those don't really jive together.
Great, thanks, Alex. Carter, when were you diagnosed with autism? How would you describe your autism?
Autism is movies. M-O-V-I-E-S.
So Carter was diagnosed at 3 years and 3 months old, and how I would describe I think maybe Carter would describe his experience is it took him longer to do a lot of things than the typical person. It took him longer to understand how to play with toys and use his imagination, to use language, words to communicate what he was thinking, to be curious about the world around him. It's also taken him longer to understand certain things you learn in school, like reading and counting and adding. So just on his own, on a different pace. Some of those things will always be harder for him. Do you want to answer how it's affected?
Sure. I'd say one of the ways it affected Carter is one of the happiest people I have ever met. Carter's never thrown a tantrum in his life, including through the terrible twos and those typical years. He's happy. He lives on his own little planet, but it's a happy planet. Hey, Carter, are you a happy guy?
See.
See, how you feeling tonight?
Great. Don't touch your mouth. It's.
You get close to it and you say, "How are you doing?"
How are you doing?
And you say, "I am doing."
I'm doing great. Don't touch your mouth.
Carter's bilingual, it seems. So, well, thank you all. We'll move on to our next question, which is again a hard question. So we'll see what everyone has to say. So question number 3, Stephanie. What do you like about having autism? How has it made your life better? Or what's good about having autism?
Well, I could show my sweet, and polite, and friendly, and kind of personality to everybody. And I have also have a lot of people who care about me. They're like a second family. And I have really awesome special education teachers who really help me a lot. And I have some special treatment for when I go to the Disney parks and resorts.
And what don't you like about having autism? What are the hard parts for you?
What I don't like about having autism is when I'm feeling stressed out or something like that. Like the time I'm dealing with my sister or brother, or they just don't understand me. And now I'm not really comfortable doing all adult things.
Good answer. Ben. So, what do you like about having autism? How has it made your life better?
This one is also kind of hard. It's kind of like asking how, to all of you in the audience, how is not being autistic made your life better? like, what am I supposed to, I don't have any other, it's all I've ever known. I don't have anything else to base it on. I can't just switch brain modes, you know? It's like, so, but I guess what I kind of, for most of my life, liked is that I've always, like, what's that quote? Beat your own drummer, or whatever it is. I've always been myself. Like, I don't really tend to go with what's popular or anything like that. I just, I find something, maybe music or video games or books that nobody really knows about, and then, I just like it, and then, that's that. Wait, what were the other questions?
What's hard about? What don't you like about autism? What are the challenges that you've had because you have autism?
Actually, there's a lot. There's sensory sensitivity. Like, sometimes things are really too loud. Sometimes I'll have to cover my ears and stuff. Sometimes, when I get anxious easily, if I try to have a certain daily routine, sometimes to an extent. If it gets broken, I kind of start worrying, but, it's controllable. There's, I guess a lot of it is that I'll sometimes, when I'm out by myself, I'll do things like I'm not going to get up here and spin around in circles, or, sometimes flap my hands a little when I'm happy, or, and then some people will look at me, and I can only guess what they're thinking. Oh, well, this guy's weird or something, and it took me a long while, basically up until I was in high school, to realize maybe me doing all these things is why I don't really have any friends. You know, yeah, it's sad, but I guess that's the hard part, is making friends and, you know, being out in noisy public places and people seeing you as less than a full person. But it's, I mean, not everyone, but, you know, a lot of people. You see stuff like in the news about how that's another subject. You know, I'll just let everyone else talk.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Timmy.
What do you like about having autism? I like autism because I like me. I know things people are not telling. I am smart. What do you not like about having autism? I live in a world so verbal. I cannot talk. I am always out of the conversations. People act like I am not hearing when they talk about me.
Thank you, Timmy. Alex, what do you like about having autism?
That's a tough one. But I guess one of my strengths that comes with having this type of, there's another way to put it, type of disability, is that I'm able to write and correct papers a lot easier than I am to voice my thoughts and opinions. So it's easier for me to write stuff on paper than it is to just do like a big presentation. And I'm able to kind of pick up on details that most people might overlook. Probably one of the things I don't like about it is that it seems like there's not really an idea of what some of the social norms are. I mean, I had to learn it through trial and error over and over again. Just what is socially acceptable, what isn't. Remember to look people in the eyes. Remember to always pause, think before you say anything. Just things that seem normal to everyone is just, to someone like such as myself, is hard. It's difficult.
Wow, thanks. Carter, what do you like about having autism?
Watching the TV shows.
I don't know if Carter is self-aware of being different or having autism. It's not something we've talked about. It's not something I don't think he's capable of talking about. I mean, one of the things that I like and the people around him like about Carter's autism, I mean, he's a genuinely nice, funny, happy person at all times. And I had a heartwarming moment at one of his peers at APL was grilling Susan about, is Carter always happy? Do you ever get frustrated? Do you ever get mad? And Susan's like, no, he's pretty happy. Sometimes he gets frustrated. He's like, I should be more like Carter. He was a role model for the first time in his life, victory lap. What do we not like? How do you feel about dogs, Carter? Do you like dogs?
No.
Yes. His phobia, dogs. We don't like dogs. Dogs are scary, including the little tiny, yippy little friendly ones. They're extra scary. They're more kinetic. They are. And I think it could be hard for Carter because he's very social. He likes people, and he'll be having fun, and he attracts other kids and then doesn't have the social skills to close the deal. And when they're little kids, they don't care. At his age now, they're like, hey, that kid's having fun, and they come over and they try to interact, and it doesn't work, and they kind of wander off. And so I think it's hard for him to connect with his people. Do you like people?
Yes, I do.
What do you see up there? Do you like?
JAC.
I don't know if I have a lot to add. Yeah, I think Jim covered it. Carter's what's great for Carter is Carter likes being Carter. Carter has a good, he's emotionally secure. He's got a good life. So it's hard. I think maybe it was Ben who said it's hard to say what he likes about having autism compared to not having it. He's never not had it. So, but he likes being Carter. So I think that's good about his life.
Thanks. Some pretty profound comments. Really, quite extraordinary. So, question number 4. If the whole world were listening, and some of the world is listening, what would you want people to know about you, and what would you want people to know about autism? Stephanie? Again, hard questions. So.
Oh, yes. If the whole world were listening, just because some of us have autism, it doesn't mean that you can't follow your dreams. And if you work hard and pay close attention, then your dreams will come true.
Anything else you want to tell us about what other people should know about autism?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Ben, what would you want other people to know about you that you haven't already shared with us? And what would you want the rest of the world to know about autism?
Well, about me, as it relates to autism,
Or maybe just about who you are and what your dreams are, and
well, I kind of, when I was younger, I was, and I kind of still am really into medical stuff, but back then I wanted to be a surgeon, but I'm legally blind and can't drive, so I don't know if being a surgeon would be a particularly... I mean, I could probably operate on you, but I don't know if the results would be 100% satisfactory. Loudmouth pectorals there. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, being autistic is sometimes due to other things in childhood, like being bullied and stuff. I mean, there's kind of this deep depression that gets at me sometimes, like sometimes I'm worthless or who would like me for who I am. I've kind of got to battle against that stuff daily. And it well, I guess move on to the next question. If the whole world were listening, what would I want them to know about autism? First thing, I don't think I would want the whole world to be listening, because that would be a very, very nerve-wracking, but it's autism is you should just accept it. We're not less. We're not. We're just like you. We have hopes. We have dreams. We feel. We love. We may not show. We may not. If you say, I love you. We may not just say I love you back, but we'll sure show it in other ways. I personally don't like to be touched. I don't really give hugs, but I do know other autistic people who love to give lots and lots of hugs. It's I don't think it's really a disorder, but the way that the rest of the world does things socially can make it a disorder. I don't think it's something to be feared. I don't think it's something to be combated. I don't like use of combative language. I don't like the fear-mongering tactics of some organizations. I'm not going to name, but maybe if I think of anything else, I'll say something, but I can't right now, so.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Timmy.
If the whole world were listening, what would you want the world to know about autism and you? I am autistic. I am not deaf. I am not cognitively slow or stupid. I hear what you say about me. It is hurtful, so please don't talk about me in front of me. I have feelings, I just can't tell you like a verbal person. I recognize your feelings, I just don't express my acknowledgement of your feelings like you think I should.
Wow. Alex.
If the whole world were listening, or I guess if I was a world dictator, funny thought. I guess what I want people to know about me is that there really isn't anything wrong with having autism. We do try to, we strive to do nice things for people. We try to help them out whenever we can. We just don't express it the way normal people, or what I don't know what you call them. I'm gonna call them abnormal. Would interact. I think it's just really awful how society kind of looks down on you if you say the wrong thing or you can't express your thoughts the way you want to, or you don't read the person the right way. They just look at you kind of funny as if you did something wrong when you really didn't. It's awful. I mean,
Thanks, Alex. Carter?
What do you want to tell people about you?
So tired. Oh, please.
I'm not sure what that was. What I would want people to know about Carter is not autism. Carter is Carter. You've met one autistic person. You've met one autistic person. They're not all little round pegs that all fit in the same hole. They're very, very different, just like people without autism are very, very different. And autism manifests itself in very, very different ways, is what I would want the whole world to know about people with autism, is they're people with autism. They're not autistics. It doesn't define who they are. And the other thing is, when you see someone behaving in a way that doesn't fit the social contract, it's not necessarily a willful violation of the social contract. He didn't sign that contract. It's not an acknowledgement. It's not willful. It's not doing it to annoy you, and he's not doing it to try to game the social system. He's the most genuine person I know. He doesn't do that. So
I think I would say basically the same thing, that the fabric of our community is made up with a whole wide range of people, the way we are in the world, the way we think, the way we reason, what we value, how we express our feelings, and in some ways having there's an expanded view of what it means to be normal. I mean, why can't what it means to be normal just be what it is to be human? And we could live in communities that embrace the whole range, and I think we would be happier, healthier communities. And I think that's what, if the world were listening, I'd want them to know and embrace.
So here's the opportunity for you all in the audience to ask some questions. And any of the panelists that feel comfortable can answer these questions. Jim, I think, is running around to go get the microphone, because the people in Wenatchee and in Alaska and other folks around the state who may be tuning in won't be able to hear you unless you speak into the microphones. For my part, these have been remarkable voices. We have people who are expressing what they feel like, acknowledging their lives as being the same as the rest of us with different abilities. And we've heard some pretty amazing things. So let's also, if any of you want to say something about what somebody else has said, feel free to chime in here. We set these questions up in advance so that it made it somewhat easier for people to answer them. Timmy, for instance, is able to give us an answer, but it's quite slow in terms of his typing on the iPad, but we should be patient and try and hear his voice as well. So anyone want to start this out? Hi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. I'm honored to have been listening to your presentation and have heard your story. My question is regarding your upbringing. As a mom of a very little one, recently diagnosed, I'm trying to be the best parent that I can be to him. So my question would be, what do you think, can you highlight some of the most helpful things that your families have done, that your parents have done for you, and some things that you wish they knew more of, or that they understood better, especially in your younger years, if you can remember, kindergarten, younger, and even later, through later school years. Thank you so much.
Any of you want to tackle that question?
I can answer it unless anyone else wants.
Timmy's working on an answer there, so we'll give him a moment, but please go ahead, Ben, and tell us your thoughts.
Well, basically, just presume competence. Like, don't assume that your kid can do this or can't do this, or just sign them up for things that any parent of any non-autistic kid would. Sports, clubs. If adjustments need to be made, then I think they should be accommodated. But I was in elementary school, sent to a different school for my brothers because of my autism, my speech difficulties, and my blindness. And I just kind of was pissed off about that. I know I made some friends, and I'm still in contact with them on Facebook and stuff, but, and I had some good opportunities there. But, and I didn't get to play much sports. I kind of wish I got as many opportunities as my brothers did. So I'd say just give them whatever opportunities if that you think would give a non-autistic child. So.
Timmy, were you able to? We're working on an answer, I think.
Never give up on him.
I have an answer more from the parent side than the Carter side. Our original parenting philosophy was to nurture an emotionally secure child, and when he got his diagnosis, that didn't change. That goal stayed the same. There is no routine and program that works. There's no one set playbook. Your child's an individual. Figure out what he or she, what works for your child. What do they want to do? And then try to find a way to do it. He loves individual sports. Team sports, not interested. He wouldn't do it. But now he skis and he ice skates and we found a way to do what he likes to do. He likes swimming. We live in the Northwest, so there's no swimming pools, but we do what we can. But you have an individual. There's no one playbook. Work with your unique little dude.
Alex, I think you were working on something over there.
I was. I was just writing it down. But regarding the situation, I'd say one of the things you possibly could do is just be as optimistic as you can and be very supportive and do whatever it takes to support your child, because they have a lot to give. They're very sweet, they're kind, they really care about their parents. And I still care about mine.
This comment is directed towards Timmy. I just want to say that everything you shared was so powerful. It has made me very happy to hear all of you speak. And I cried a little bit, not tears of sadness, but happiness to really hear what you all have to say and share with the world. And we are listening, and we want to hear more. So thank you.
Saw some hands up over there.
Hi, so this is a similar question to hers about parenting, but I'm actually an aspiring special education teacher, and so I would just love to hear what you would like. What you, if there was a specific moment from a teacher standpoint, something that a teacher did that really helped you, or something that I, as a teacher could do to make sure that I'm giving the best to children with autism, if that makes sense.
Anyone want to field that question? To me?
Miss Posada Show. Miss Posada showed me I am smart.
Anyone else want to comment on what's helped in your younger years from teachers or from therapists or from other folks than your parents in your life?
Well, most teachers, just like set me out in the halls. You know, I got a lot of trouble. Didn't really mean to do a lot of things I did, but I do remember the teacher I had in 5th grade, because I used to be, and I still am, like, kind of hyper. Nowhere near as much today as I was when I was in 5th grade. But instead of sending me out in the halls and shaming me in front of the class and sending me to the principal, she'd get the recess teacher, and me and her would go and run around the track outside, or if I didn't interrupt class, I'd get extra recess time, or stuff like that. So just a teacher who doesn't force you into the mold of other students, doesn't force you to just sit down like a good little boy for 7 hours. Who could do that? I still can't do that. My attention span is like 30 minutes most of the time, unless I'm really interested. Then it's like, I don't know, a couple hours. But just stuff like that.
Carter wanted to say something, I think.
Carter's dad wants to say something.
Carter's dad wants to say something. Okay.
It's along the same line. The teachers that were most effective with Carter are the teachers that had a Carter-centric approach to whatever they were trying to do, whether it was to educate him or work on some behavior issues. And the people that failed miserably are the people that had a program and a routine they were going to run. They had a preconceived approach, and they were going to try to run my little square peg through their round hole approach, and it doesn't work. And that goes with discipline for behavior you don't want, educational approaches. What works for one kid may not work for another, and you can try as much as you want, it's still not going to work. And the people that were most effective adapted to who he is and what works.
Hi, we're Stephanie's parents, and I think we could sit here for 2 hours and talk about the value of the special ed teachers in our life, and you're a hero. So, thank you. But I think. Oh, sorry. I'd encourage you, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'd encourage you to, kind of do your homework. One of the things that the special ed teachers brought into our family situation was sort of alternatives to. There's a lot of sensory integration things that we never heard of. We spent when she was a baby. We would brush her skin with a corn brush, and just little things to calm her down, so her information intake would smooth out, and just a lot of different therapies and alternatives. And then the other thing, while I'm saying know everything, we also had a couple situations where the needs of the kids might have gotten in the way of that teacher's family, and so we would get calls from her preschool teacher at 10 o'clock at night if we had left a message for her 6 hours earlier. We'd get a call at 10 o'clock at night because she couldn't go to bed not answering our question, and I would just encourage you that as you go through this process that you need to kind of take care of yourself too. So, and then Sally had a couple things.
I think, in a lot of ways, it was her teachers that made a huge difference in us, opened our eyes to what the possibilities were, where we might have thought, okay, she has a disability, there's not going to be much hope for her to have a real future. And they taught us to set goals and to set higher goals than we thought we could. And they would set higher goals than we thought she could attain. And she would continuously, every year, achieve them and surpass them. And they were 100% supportive. And it wasn't just her. We saw it of each kid. So that's up.
Jim, down here? Oh, over there, sorry.
I had a question for some of the older children. My son's like 17. Do you think it's helpful after you've finished the school and you don't have the daily bus coming, or if you don't have a job, to have like a weekly sports club or just a club where children with autism can meet as adults to play games or video games or have sport activities, but with other children like you that understand you, where you feel safe and comfortable? Because I know things for older children are really lacking.
I'd say yes. I mean, because one of the biggest regrets I have from the time I first attended college to, and I'm almost near the graduation date right now, or will be in about 6 months. But one of the things I do regret is not joining clubs. And what it does is it teaches you social skills, how to interact with other people, how to interact with other kids like yours, and you kind of establish a connection with one another, and yeah. So I would definitely join one. Encourage him to join one.
Yeah, I would like to expand upon that, saying when you get out of high school, especially if you're not going to college, if you don't have a job, if you're not volunteering, if you're sitting around at home all day, you at some point you're probably going to get pretty lonely. And I think that the best thing to do is find something that you like to do that's a group activity. The best way to meet people, is to get out there. And, speaking of groups with older autistic people or autistic adults, not that I mean to advertise anything here, but I am part of a meetup group called the Square Pigs, which is in here in Seattle, and it's for adults 18 or older, and they have various meetups that they organize, throughout the Sound, and a few times a month, and we get together, we talk about the struggles of what it means to be autistic, and some of us get to do together and do some other things. I mean, I know I've met a few people there who I regularly play games with online on Xbox, so but whatever you do, please have your it's really helpful for them to meet and interact with other people, not just stay locked up in their room or anything like that.
And if you get out of high school and college, you should go to every website and find what makes you happy, and find something that find a job that's interests you a lot.
So Stephanie, tell us about your job. What do you do?
Well, I work in the cancer care unit up on the 7th floor and 8th.
And what do you do there?
I'm a unit coordinator assistant.
And what do you like about that job?
Oh, like saying hello to the family and the patients and the staff. And the staff are kind of like a second family to me. And they're being so kind and nurturing and sweet. And they kind of feel the same way about me.
Wow. One more. Well, I think we have time for one more question. Sir?
I was wondering if you folks could comment for us about life skills. Are you taking classes or have any structured programs to develop life skills? You know, taking care of your laundry, your meals, and your medicines and stuff like that.
That wasn't the last question. We're going to 8:30. Jim corrected me, so we have plenty of time for more comments and questions. So, question was sort of life skill training. What has that happened as part of your education? Is this a good thing? Not good thing?
Yeah, some life skills are really good. I like participating in the North Shore Wranglers. Yes.
What's that?
Oh, it's a special kind of club with adults who have disabilities, and to get together and do some activities like bowling and singing, swimming, and basketball.
Excellent. Anyone else wanna comment on that experience? Has that been part of your training? And there's Tim.
I am in culinary class
He's in the culinary class.
Oh, excellent.
Hey, Carter, do you wanna tell
Excellent.
them what do you do on what do you do Wednesday nights? In the microphone? What do you do on Wednesday nights?
I make tuna mac on Wednesday night.
So Carter's learning how to cook. He makes tuna mac on Wednesday night.
So, about life skills and stuff. Well, actually, there's this place called the Alyssa Burnett Adult Life Center, which is actually affiliated with Children's that I go to. Figuring we're at Children's. So, this is a program for autistic adults 18 and older, and it just started in April. And so I was lucky because before I joined the center, I was going through Department of Services for the Blind trying to get a job, and they said, my case manager said, with the problems that you say you face, I don't know what we can do for you. And so I searched on the internet. I was talking to my therapist, and I found the Burnett Center. So I signed up, and it goes based on the quarter system, and I've been taking cooking classes and life skills classes where we learn things like hygiene, how to read social situations, about housing, really useful stuff like that. I wish that the Burnett Center had been around before this, because in high school and stuff, it's not just for kids who are autistic. I think that the majority of kids nowadays, they don't get necessary life skills like paying bills, doing laundry, that sort of stuff, so yeah, that's what I do for life skills and stuff like that.
Alex?
I guess the only thing I would say to that is you have to have people with autism have sorry, I'm a little bit. I guess the one thing I would stress is you make sure you have a routine in place, because that way you don't just kind of sit around and play video games for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I know, I've done it. And then I got bored. But that way, if you have a routine in place, you can just you can change your schedule around. You can do something new. You can incorporate some new stuff in your schedule, take old stuff out, and then try new things, or maybe go out to clubs with some friends or something. Just things like that. I think it'd be really helpful to have those types of life skills.
Stephanie, you look like you were gonna say something?
No.
Okay. Sorry. So we have, oh, wait, I have to interrupt because Jim told me I have to behave here. So we have folks around the state who are teleconferencing with us, and we will open the questions to anybody else somewhere else that may have a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
Tell us who you are and where you're from.
I'm Nancy, and I'm up here in Mount Vernon at Skagit Valley Hospital.
Great.
And I noticed in the handout we had that several of you mentioned that autism is a miswiring or a change in brain circuitry. And I was wondering what your own understanding as people with autism, what your own understanding is of how your brain works in relationship to your body.
Anyone want to tackle that? That's a tough question. Oh no, this is an opportunity to hear your voices, not mine.
I guess the only way to describe it is, I'm sure you're all aware of something called processing speed. It's where your brain is not able to kind of.
Sorry.
Does he want to take it away?
No.
All
Sorry.
right. But what it seems as though like the world comes faster than it does with I guess normal brain chemistry, and so as a consequence, it's harder for people with autism to understand things, to absorb the material, to absorb what somebody said, or to get the full context of what somebody said. So, and that's probably, yeah, that's probably how I would answer it.
Anyone else want to tackle brain chemistry here?
My brain does not prune anything.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
See if I can make it talk. Here, make it do it.
Your brain doesn't prove anything?
My brain does not prune anything.
Oh, prune anything. Somebody's been reading journal articles or something.
Speaking of journal articles, I kind of wish that I had retained everything from biopsych, but come up with all these technical terms. I guess it's just different brain wiring. I mean, personally, a lot of these, because I've also got ADD, so and there's a lot of similar things between the two. At times, it seems like my sensory processing capabilities are off. It's like static on a radio. Sometimes you can say something to me, and all I'll hear is blah 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 blah, something like that. And so I'll need to ask you to keep clarifying, and hopefully you'll be patient enough. And then some days it'll be just fine. Some days I'll feel like I can do things faster than non-autistic people. It really depends on the day, and I guess that's as specific as I can get, because this is a really hard question.
It's a really hard question for all of us.
Well, my brain does improve in geometry and in chemistry and hard math. Well, my brain is only interested in letters of the alphabet and numbers and show business and all TV characters and all that. And like Sesame Street, for one thing. It teaches kids how to say the letters of the alphabet and learn the numbers and all that. I think you should teach your autistic kids how to say the alphabet.
Other questions from out in Washington State? We'll get back to you all in the audience after another question.
If there's no straight path to the answer.
So true.
Just pass it down to him.
Anybody else out there in teleconferencing land? You'll have to turn on your mics if you want to talk to us. Otherwise, we got lots of other questions at the audience here. Okay, so where did Jim go with the mic? Oh, we got somebody? Yeah, thanks.
Hi. A couple of you previously mentioned that you are aware of things that other typically developing people are not aware of. Could you expand upon that? Thank you.
I guess I'll take it away. I guess the way to put it is, after after you get into a routine, let's say going to class, taking notes, and let's say you compare it to a friend of yours in class or an acquaintance, you start to realize like there's a pattern emerging that's you're not able to take down as many notes as they are or as many detailed notes because your processing speed does not seem as quick as the other person's. So, yeah.
Alex, I have a question for you. You said that you're about to finish college.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do after college, do you think?
What I'd like to do is get a job in GIS in probably the state government.
GIS?
Yes,
I don't know what
Geographical
that
Information Systems. It's basically like, I'd be just doing stuff like the U.S. Census Bureau, finding out immigration patterns, statistics, economic data, just all this fascinating array of numbers that can just go.
So is that something you've been studying through your college career?
Mm-hmm.
And would you regard your number ability as a special skill?
Well, not number ability, because I never went past pre-calc.
Or your ability to understand that kind of information?
Yeah, it's one of my strong suits is the ability to make maps. Because when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot of maps. I loved doing it. In fact, I think it was when Seattle did like a planned light rail routes or a monorail routes through Seattle. It was like one of the plans. I actually just drew a non-existent fictitious map of where the monorail should go. Bulldoze a freeway somewhere. It'll be fine.
It's a great idea. We'll bring up the endless Seattle monorail discussion. Anyone else want to kind of highlight, and I think this gets back to what's perhaps for you good about autism, are there things that you think that you can do better than other people, that you're proud of, that you would regard as a special skill or ability? Timmy?
I can tell something about people by how the people talk.
Anyone else want to comment on something that they think is a special ability that you have? I mean, we've heard a lot of very special abilities.
I mean, I guess other people see it. And I guess I do compared to other people, but when I'm writing, or I guess more accurately when I'm reading, I tend to really notice like the small details and mostly people's careless mistakes when they're, it's almost as bad as text speak, but not quite. It's because I'll reread the sentence or the word form of a word, and I'm like, no, you don't say there when you mean there. It's like you know, it just bugs me to no end. You know, and I've you know, and I used to correct people, and they'd get so PO'd at me, and they'd be like, you know what, Ben, nobody wants to hear that they've misspelled something because nobody cares, so you should just stop being a grammar Nazi. And I'm like, well, I would stop being a grammar Nazi if you learned how to spell. So, so you know, I've, you know, unless people want my
Maybe
comments,
you should teach him a class.
I haven't yet, you know. I should, you know, but I mean, and as in regards to writing, I don't know if they still do to Wassel, but on that, I was only one of a handful of students to get perfect on the writing in the, you know, I guess, and I've been, you know, I was approached numerous times, you know, in college, when I went to community college, in high school, in middle school. Could I write for the newspaper? Wait, you know, but I turned it down. You know, I'm like, no, because it's really hard to get down and just like force yourself to do something if someone else wants you to. But that's you know, partially why I haven't started blogging online about my experiences. But you know, maybe someday.
Sounds like you're a future editor.
Maybe.
It's more, I had to write this down myself, but my motto for many years, all my life, is to thine own self be true. And I think the world needs autistic people. I'm the mother of a child with autism, and just the truth and the honesty that's there. When we talk about social, I can't understand so-called normal social lying, and that's truth. Denial, to me, that's just lying, and that's considered normal. And to be able to lie and to be able to deny truth, that's considered normal behavior. And sometimes it makes me wonder, well, well, it may be called normal, but it's not right exactly. But we need your truth, honesty, and as a teacher, she's up here, the lady I keep track of teachers, like you're here, because anybody who's not right for my kid, I'm like, okay, out. And so the mother over there for your kid, you always be an advocate. You will have to be, and whoever's not quite right, if your kid's not comfortable with them, out and find someone like her. So
you know, sometimes this question that comes up about what's normal and what's not normal is really a hard thing to kind of grapple with. I agree with you. I think that the world divided into normal and not normal is not a good way to think about it, but rather to think about people as all individuals, all of us special, all of us different. And so we weren't going to go to this place, but I'm gonna take us there, and that's that question of a disability. Do you think that you have a disability, any of you? That's a hard question also.
What is a disability?
I don't know.
How would one define a disability?
I don't know. I think it's really hard to say. But that word floats around a lot in association with the word autism.
Who gets to define disability?
Yeah.
The ADA. I'm just kidding.
Well played.
No, but seriously, it is really hard to define what's a disability. I mean, there's so many different models of disability. I mean, you go to a doctor. I mean, if we're talking about autism and stuff like that, it's probably going to be a psychiatrist. But they tend to use the medical model. They tend to look at what is it about your child that is wrong? What do we need to fix? You know, and after you know, going to therapist and being told, you know, you need to do this to fit in because you're doing this wrong and you're broken in this sort of way, this and that, and you're affected, you know, and all, you know, it just starts like bashing on your self-esteem and stuff. I prefer to look at autism through the social model of disability, which kind of says that in part, or I guess for the most part, we're disabled because society doesn't accommodate us, because, and this isn't just for autism, this is for other disabilities, be it if you're physically handicapped and have to be in a wheelchair, or totally blind or deaf, or, you know, society just does not want to seem in general to accommodate people. And so they're quick to throw around labels, heavily medicate, and stuff like that. But you know, we could talk about this all day, but so I guess I'll stop there.
Keep going. I'm a social science major.
Nice.
I have a take on it, which is disability is just a label. Autism is just a label. It's less about the label than what you do about it. That makes the difference. And in terms of Carter, the autism label was a good thing for us because it opened the door to services that we needed to help. But it was the services I need, not the label. And disability, if it leads to like accommodation and people thinking of a broader definition than me as normal, because most, you know, that's the bias. Well, normal's me and everybody else different from me is abnormal. You know, the cat thinks the dog is disabled because it can't tell the difference in the color, and the dog thinks the cat's disabled because it can't smell the Cheetos in the corner. I mean, it's just different. You know, it's like I said, it's not if the label can be useful, it can also be hurtful. So it's about how it's used more than the word itself.
That's beautifully said. So where's the microphone going? Up there.
Okay, I had a question. Currently, I'm an ABA therapist, so just how it impacts you from going, you know, obviously therapists transition from being in your homes, or you might go to OT or speech or all of those, and then they might transition and move on to a different field, or you might transition out. And how does that affect you personally by having therapists come in and out? And did you ever get close to some where it was really difficult, and how was the transition, I guess, and the expectancy of it? All of that entailed of just having a therapist and having them have to leave, I guess.
That's a great question. So again, it's getting back to, you know, how have various therapists or teachers coming into and out of your lives made you feel? Jimmy's working on that one. Anyone else wanna comment on that? Is that a problem for you? Was it good, bad?
Well, a therapist can help you out sometimes. Like, you have, like your sensory, and you're teaching your numbers and the letters of the alphabet and all that.
So they were helpful for you?
Yes.
But was it hard to have a bunch of different therapists that you maybe developed some friendships with, and then they left your life? Was that a hard thing, or was that okay?
I think it was okay.
Well, I never, I guess, was in ABA. I mean, I've been in speech and behavior therapy, saw the school psychologist regularly. other kinds of therapies, but it really depends on the therapist, and if you find them personable and you like them. I've been around some therapists who just talked in a monotone voice. I see. How does that make you feel? You know, how do you think that makes you feel? You know, nobody wants to be around someone who's just gonna like hunt you off after like 30 minutes or tell you to go back to class or say, no, you do this way. You know, it just demoralizes you. With that being said, I've also had, you know, therapists who have been great. You know, we've played games, they've made suggestions, but didn't, you know, explicitly say, this is how you have to do things. You know, like I said, it just goes back to being personable and getting along. And yes, it is hard to change therapists. I mean, I've been sued through like so many therapists that, you know, they don't seem to stay too long. I don't know, maybe it's something with the fill or something, but it's always hard because then you have to, you know, spend time repeating yourself over and over and telling your life story to somebody else when you've done it like what seems like millions of times already, you know? And sometimes you just feel, why can't they just stay?
So we're near the end, and we want to be sure that oh, Timmy, sorry. Timmy, please.
I miss my therapist when they left.
So the theme here has been to hear the voices of people with autism. I guess I would use my moderator prerogative of asking one more question, and that is, what advice would you give to everybody about how to be able to hear your voice?
You might tell your autistic kids that if you follow your dreams and then if you work hard and study, and then your dreams might come true.
I tell people, you know, just don't dismiss the experiences of autistic people. If you ask an autistic person what they've seen or what's happening, and then you go to a non-autistic person, like right behind their back, and feel like you need to confirm that that's what really happened, you know, just don't do that. It's you know, you wouldn't want to do that to a non-autistic person. You know, you wouldn't go and ask, oh, well, is this what really happened? Yeah. So just believe in them, and if they're verbal, if they're nonverbal, you know, just take the time to listen. Be patient.
Timmy looks like he's almost ready.
Almost.
You ready?
No.
Nope. Okay. Anyone else want to give the audience here advice about how to make sure that we hear your voice?
Well, I think in the spirit of normalizing people with autism, the way to hear people with autism is the same way that you hear anyone. You listen. I think it's that simple. Listen without judgment. Listen without assuming that the perspective is not valid, even if it's different from your own. I think that if we take the time to listen, that people can be heard.
And I'd say listen with your whole body. It's not just your ears. Watch facial cues, body languages, what do they like? We have dinner with Arthur, and Arthur doesn't talk much, but you can still listen to Arthur. What does he like doing? Watch what he does. Takes longer to listen sometimes, but listen.
Okay, so this is addressed to an autistic child, if Tim had something to say to an autistic child. So, here. Push it.
Learn to talk. This is too slow to be part of society.
So this has been a pretty profound experience. I think that every parent, autistic person, therapist, teachers should listen to this presentation. I think it was very moving, and I want to thank you all for your time and energy and wisdom and words. They were very important to us all. So thank you all. Thank you all in the audience.